In the glittering mansion of Mrs. Eleanor White, a self-made millionaire known for her sharp tongue and fiery temper, silence reigned as her words echoed in a language no one could understand. Chinese. Her American staff looked helplessly at each other, frozen by the storm building in their boss's eyes. Every second of confusion only fueled Eleanor's rage. The head butler shifted nervously, the cook lowered her eyes, and the gardener quietly backed toward the exit. No one dared speak, no one dared move, but just when the weight of humiliation was about to crush the room, a soft, trembling voice broke the silence. It wasn't the butler, it wasn't the cook, it wasn't any of Eleanor's high-paid assistants. It was the maid's daughter, a girl no one paid attention to, a girl who often hid in corners, sketching or humming quietly. And in that moment, her words would change everything. Because she spoke fluent Chinese. The White Mansion was a palace of marble floors and gold chandeliers. Everything about it screamed wealth, from the imported Italian rugs to the crystal vases lining the hall. But beneath the glitter was a constant hum of fear. Staff members knew one thing. When Eleanor White was angry, the world trembled. This afternoon, Eleanor was angrier than ever. "Does anyone here understand me?" she barked, switching from English to Chinese mid-sentence, her frustration spilling over. She had just returned from a high-profile meeting with Chinese investors, and their demands still burned in her mind. She needed answers. She needed clarity. And her staff, they looked like deer caught in headlights. Butler James wrung his hands. "Ma'am, forgive me, I don't speak Chinese." "Then why are you standing here?" Eleanor's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. The cook whispered, "I can try to use a translator app." Eleanor snapped, slamming her fist against the polished oak table. "I don't want toys. I want loyalty. I pay you to anticipate my needs, not fail me when it matters most." The staff exchanged desperate glances. Fear hung heavy. In the corner, barely noticed, stood Maria, the maid. And next to her, clutching a worn notebook, was her 16-year-old daughter, Lily. She wasn't supposed to be in the mansion during work hours, but Maria had no choice but to bring her. Lily's eyes darted nervously between the trembling staff and Eleanor's fiery face. She knew Chinese, she had spent years learning it through online courses, fascinated by the culture. But should she step forward? She was just the maid's daughter. What right did she have to interrupt? Eleanor paced, muttering furiously in Chinese, her tone dripping with disdain. The staff shrank back further. No one dared speak. The silence was suffocating. Until a soft voice said, "Ta shuo ta shang yao daan." She said she wants answers. Every head turned. The butler gasped. The cook nearly dropped her spoon. It was Lily. The room froze. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, the mighty millionaire looked startled. Narrator. The maid's daughter had just done the unthinkable, broken the silence of fear. Eleanor's heels clicked against the marble floor as she stalked toward Lily, her eyes blazing. "You," she hissed. "Say that again." Lily's voice trembled, but she held her ground. "You said, you want answers." "I understand Chinese." The room collectively inhaled. No one, not the staff, not even Maria, knew Lily spoke Chinese. Eleanor folded her arms, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "And who exactly are you? My translator, my secretary, or just the maid's child trespassing where she doesn't belong?" Maria rushed forward, bowing her head. "Forgive her, ma'am, she's just a child. I'll take her away." "Stop." Eleanor's command froze everyone. Her eyes drilled into Lily. "Speak. Tell me what I said." Lily swallowed hard, then repeated Eleanor's frustrated mutterings in English. "You said the investors are demanding faster results, and you're furious that no one is competent enough to keep up with you." The staff gasped. She was right, word for word. Eleanor's lips curled into a thin smile. "Interesting. So the little mouse can roar." The butler whispered, "Ma'am, she could help." Eleanor snapped, "Silence, James. This is between me and her." She leaned closer to Lily. "If you're lying, if you embarrass me, I'll make sure your mother never works in this city again." Tears welled in Maria's eyes. She gripped her daughter's hand, silently begging her not to provoke Eleanor further. But Lily's chin lifted ever so slightly. "I'm not lying, ma'am." Narrator. It was a clash of worlds, wealth versus poverty, power versus invisibility. In that shining mansion, a maid's daughter dared to look a millionaire in the eye. Eleanor smirked. "Very well, let's test you." She rattled off a rapid string of Chinese phrases, filled with sharp tones and difficult idioms. The staff stood frozen, unsure whether to pray for Lily's success or brace for disaster. Lily listened carefully, her mind racing. Then, with steady breath, she translated every sentence, her words precise, her voice gaining confidence. The silence that followed was deafening. Eleanor's smirk faded. For once, the millionaire woman had nothing to say. For the first time in years, Eleanor White felt unsettled. A maid's daughter had succeeded where her team of professionals had failed. And it stung. "Where did you learn Chinese?" Eleanor asked coldly, her voice like ice. Lily hesitated. "Online. Books. Practice. I just love the language." "Love?" Eleanor scoffed. "Love doesn't win negotiations. Power does." Maria whispered, "Ma'am, she's just a child." Silence. Eleanor roared, her voice cracking with old wounds. "Children can destroy empires. Don't underestimate them." The staff flinched. They had seen Eleanor furious before, but this was different. This was personal. Eleanor paced the room, muttering in both English and Chinese, fragments of memory slipping out. "They mocked me, they left me with nothing, and now these investors think they can." She stopped abruptly, realizing she had said too much. Lily's eyes softened. She had caught the crack in Eleanor's armor. "You were hurt, weren't you?" she asked gently. Eleanor's head snapped toward her. "What did you say? You know what it's like to be looked down on. To feel invisible. That's why you're so angry." The staff gasped. No one dared speak to Eleanor this way. Eleanor's face hardened, but her trembling hands betrayed her. Memories of her own childhood, a poor immigrant girl mocked for her accent, dismissed for her dreams, clawed their way back. And here, standing before her, was a mirror, a maid's daughter daring to rise. Eleanor clenched her fists. "Enough. Translate my documents tomorrow. We'll see if you're truly useful. If you fail," her voice dropped, "I'll make sure you regret it." Maria pulled Lily close, whispering, "Don't do this, mija. She's dangerous." But Lily's eyes were determined. For the first time in her life, someone needed her skills. And she wouldn't back down. Narrator. In the shadows of Eleanor's past and Lily's quiet courage, a storm was brewing. And when it struck, it would leave scars on both. The next morning, tension crackled in the mansion like a storm about to break. The Chinese investors were scheduled for a virtual meeting. Eleanor sat at the head of the long mahogany table, her presence dominating the room. Lily sat nervously at her side, clutching her notebook, while Maria wrung her hands in the back, whispering prayers. The screen flickered to life. The investors appeared, stern-faced and sharp-tongued. They launched into rapid Chinese, their tone clipped and demanding. Eleanor gestured to Lily. "Translate. Now." Lily's heart pounded, but her voice came steady. "They say the timeline is unacceptable. They want guarantees or they'll walk away." Eleanor's jaw tightened. She fired back in English. "Tell them walking away would be their biggest mistake." Lily translated flawlessly. The investors raised brows, impressed. The exchange grew fiercer. Threats, counteroffers, ultimatums. Eleanor's temper flared, but Lily matched her pace, her translations quick, clear, and bold. For the first time, Eleanor had a weapon sharp enough to strike back. And it came from the maid's daughter. But then, one investor leaned forward, speaking words thick with menace. Lily froze. These weren't business terms. They were personal. They knew something about Eleanor's past. Eleanor's face went pale. "Translate," she barked. Lily hesitated. Should she reveal the cruel insult? Or soften it to protect Eleanor's pride? The room held its breath. With trembling voice, Lily spoke the truth. He said, "You'll always be the poor girl pretending to be rich." The insult sliced the room in half. Silence followed. The investors smirked. Eleanor's eyes burned, not with anger, but with shame. For the first time, the mighty woman looked small. Narrator. And in that silence, the power shifted. Not to Eleanor, not to the investors, but to the maid's daughter, who now held the truth in her hands. The insult hung in the air like smoke, suffocating everyone in the room. Eleanor's knuckles whitened against the table. Her staff looked anywhere but at her face. Maria silently wept, wishing she could shield both her employer and her daughter from the cruelty. But Lily sat straighter. She looked at the investors through the screen and spoke directly in flawless Chinese, her voice trembling yet fierce. "You're wrong. She's not pretending. She built everything with her own hands. She's stronger than you think." Gasps filled the room. Eleanor's eyes widened. The investors laughed bitterly, but there was a flicker of unease. Lily's conviction was undeniable. She wasn't just translating anymore, she was fighting. Eleanor stared at the girl, torn between fury and something deeper, gratitude. Enough, Eleanor roared, regaining control. She stood, her presence commanding. Tell them this. I may have started poor, but I am no one's puppet. If they cannot respect me, this deal is over. Lily translated with fire in her voice. The investors fell silent, exchanging glances. Finally, their leader spoke, conceding, agreeing to renegotiate. The call ended. The room exhaled, but Eleanor didn't look victorious. She looked shaken, exposed. She turned slowly to Lily. Why did you defend me? Lily's voice cracked. Because I know what it feels like to be small. And I don't think anyone deserves to feel that way. Not even you. Tears brimmed in Eleanor's eyes, but she blinked them back. Vulnerability was a language she refused to speak. She whispered, almost to herself, "You remind me of me." Narrator. The staff watched in stunned silence. Something had shifted, between a millionaire and a maid's daughter, between power and humility. But was it respect, or just the calm before a greater storm? Because deep in Eleanor's eyes, one truth remained: this was far from over. And so, in a mansion built on power and pride, a maid's daughter cracked the walls no one else dared touch. She had faced the fury of wealth, the cruelty of strangers, and the shadows of the past, and for a moment, she stood taller than them all. But the question remains, did Eleanor truly see her, or was Lily just another tool to be used, then cast aside? The answer lies in what comes next. Right finger, stay with us, subscribe, and join the journey, because the story has only just begun.